Hi there, my name's Amanda Romania, and you're joining me here in Atlantis, Sedona. And you're joining us for temple training, which is about a subject that's so dear to my heart on many, many levels, called Seichem Reiki. And if you've taken a Reiki class before, or you've gone through some Seichem Reiki training, you'll know some of these concepts or terms that I'm sharing with you. But like anything that we're doing now in 2020, what I want to do today is take it a little bit deeper and open your eyes and your hearts to how I understand this beautiful, beautiful healing work and how it came to me very early in the 2000s when my journey just was really beginning. And I didn't understand about energy. I didn't understand that there was positives, negatives, past lives. And one of the first training workshops that I actually went to was Seichem Reiki. And the reason I was drawn to it was that they said, oh, it's connected to Egypt, it's connected to the pyramids. And at that time, I was taking sacred journeys. I was fascinated with everything Egypt. But I was also interested in the way that it was described, that it was a healing for myself. I could give it as a healing to others, and I could actually also teach it. And I remember at the time my teacher looking at me, and she was a beautiful lady, Christine, in England. And she said, I have to just tune in and we have to see. And she did a reading, and she looked at me and she said, I have Anubis here, I have Isis, and I have Osiris. And in that moment, she had no doubt that I was in the right class at the right time. And what I'd like to do is share a little bit about what I learned through that and share that with you today. So let's begin. So, what is Seichem Reiki? Well, in 1979, a gentleman called Patrick Scott Ziegler, I wanted to get the spelling correct of it, went into the Great Pyramid on Giza Plateau. And apparently he went in and he went into the Queen's Chamber, which is a little bit in the middle. He went up into the King's Chamber. And back in kind of the 70s and 80s, it was kind of, we had tourists going there, but not that many people were going there day in, day out. So they didn't have the security or the cameras that we do have currently now. And the way that Patrick gives the story, and you can look it up on Wikipedia, is that he spent the night, he hid away and he spent the night there. And what that meant was that he saw between the sunrise and then the sunset. And anyone that's traveled with me to Egypt knows that that's the time when the mystery schools, the dimensions shift, and the energy shifts in that sacred place. The Great Pyramid is an ascension chamber. It has the sarcophagus, which is a stargate, there's portals, and I've been working in and out of there for 20 years. So this is why this is so dear to my heart. When Patrick came out, and the story goes that he came out into the morning sunrise, what he started to notice was that after having some very strange dreams and insights, was that his whole body was covered in almost like this sparkling dust. And at that point, he felt a great bliss, a connection with energy, a connection with life force and love that he knew was a healing modality to bring to the world. The way that he described it was that it was living light force, living light energy. And I often know that when people say to me, well, how do you do your healings? And anyone that's been through Reiki training knows that there's a number of protocols. But now I just simply say, I just run the light. I just run the light. The light runs through me and I run it into various people in various ways. And that's how I deliver my healing frequencies. But often with protocols, it's great to take a step back and build them into our consciousness level, because the left brain is starting to go, oh, how does that work? What does it do? And the right brain is going, will you just wait and listen and let it come through? So today, let's try and build a story, build a circle. For me, Sekhem or Seichem or Sekhem, it has many different ways of phrasing it, a little bit like Akashic record, Akashic record. It depends on the dialect, but if we know what it consciously is, it doesn't really matter. Seichem Reiki for me is a remembering of something we had in a very, very ancient time. And I believe that when Patrick went into the Great Pyramid, that he possibly had in his Akashic records a connection to the high priests and priestesses, the healers of Atlantis. And just kind of breathing that in, and you might get a little insight. And when he went into that Great Pyramid, which is a temple of initiation, the Sphinx that holds the records of souls, our books of life, our ancient wisdom, unlocked something for him and gave him back a teaching modality that he possibly brought through from the central sun, from the gods and goddesses in an ancient time before. Very similar to the way that in 2019, I unlocked the records of the oracles when I was doing my work in the Sphinx, literally in the pose of the Sphinx. And I came back with a whole new thought, connection, and remembering. And we have to remember that sometimes the earth is just not ready for what we're bringing forward. So I find it interesting that he unlocked this wisdom in the 70s, but it's now kind of 2020, and we're starting to get this moving and rolling again. In ancient Atlantis, the way that I saw it was that we had 5 key stages. And in those key stages, we were evolving or revolving, sometimes devolving. I don't know if that's a proper word to use with this, but it's what my guides are telling me to use, that we came in with divine light. And during those stages of Atlantis, we moved through the systems till we got to stage 3, which was the golden age. And with that, we had these temples created of pure light. And we understood how the elements moved. And when we were in those beautiful temples, I always imagine us like children being taught. And in stage 3, going to stage 4 of Atlantis, and we're talking, 25 to 50,000 years ago, is that we began to see different elements forming around us, different connections forming around us, but everything connected back to pure divine light. So just remembering that. And sometimes you might see symbols forming or temples forming. You might feel colors or numbers or certain things coming back to you. Because really in this first part of this session is all about the remembering. So thinking of that and stimulating this memory back to the healers, the sacred healers, bringing in any of your Atlantean memories, and then also bringing in some of your Egyptian memories as well, please. And the reason that this teaching is so strong with me is that I remember in stage 4 of Atlantis, working with the oracles, the prophets of the day, and we came to a point where we had to leave. We had to gather up all our wisdom and knowledge, create a sacred vessel for this, and many of us left and went to different locations around the globe. For me, I went to Egypt, and we traveled in through the area known as Tunisia and Morocco, those kind of areas, Northern Africa. And I remember having dreams of coming to Egypt, and we worked where the tectonic plates or the grids of gold, the vortexes were, and a lot of them were around Giza Plateau, where the pyramids then would be. And that's where I believe a lot of that healing wisdom was deposited and placed for safekeeping. So that's my interpretation of why and how it's so special. And the Egyptian techniques, or the Sekhem techniques, bring in everything. They bring in all of the elements. And you may have been trained in the beautiful teachings of Seichem Reiki, and that tends to use a lot of the earth energies, the grounded energies. So think of Sekhem as a complement to that, or you're simply remembering some of your healing techniques and times. So another point to think of when you're thinking about it is if you have had a connection to the temple of Komombo, the crocodile temple, or you've had a connection perhaps to Dendera temple in Egypt, the sacred feminine. These were all temples that brought in the healing modalities. They brought in all of that wisdom, and they depicted it on the walls of the temples. So I've drawn on a couple of scrolls and Akashic records, but what I'd like to do now is take you on a regression to remember the healing and the healers of these sacred places. So I'd like you just to relax. Bring your awareness around you. Pulling light in from the central sun all through you and around you. And please building a coherence between your heart, your throat, your third eye, and your crown. And calling forward the Akashic records connected to the ancient healers, the wisdom keepers who understood the mind, body, spirit here on the earth. You may see yourself observing. You may see yourself as one of those healers, but know that all is perfect and divine. So now, very gently, taking yourself into that healing modality and finding a location that comes to your imagination. Finding that location, what does it look like today? Where have you taken yourself to? Look down at your feet and see what is underneath you, and then look up into the sky and see your full environment. Pay attention to the location that you have come to. Is it indoors? Is it outdoors? What type of temple is this? What type of structure is this? And what kind of healing is being conducted? How does this healing occur? Pay attention to the techniques and how the healing is being given and how the healing is being received. And what is it that you can learn from this wisdom? And seeing that this healing is positive, and bringing this wisdom into your heart and your consciousness now, that you understand this ancient wisdom, this energy from central source, and you're seeing it now coming back to life for you. And this knowledge and wisdom portal that you have now opened may continue on for the next day, 24, 48 hours, that you retrieve all of your gifts and wisdom and knowledge again. And as you develop this understanding that healing is deeper, wider, and greater, the holistic gifts and arts can be with you again. And so it is. And now very gently coming back to me, taking a deep breath on 3, back into your bodies, back into wherever you are. Taking a breath and relaxing on 2. And then very gently, when you're ready, eyes open, awake and smiling. So if you never thought you had the capacity for healing or that wisdom, you have that now. And perhaps you now have another memory or something to work with that can help you in your healing arts, not just for yourself, but for those around you, for your pets, for your home, your environment, even your planet, or your star brothers and sisters. As we're evolving, our star brothers and sisters are very curious at how we're healing these physical vehicles. I recently had someone come to see me and they said, it's not that they're giving me information anymore, I'm giving them information on what to do with this physical body, because we are evolving, we are changing. So, Seichem Reiki is basically running that light force, that liquid light. And how it works is that it comes into us, and like anything else, it connects to things such as sacred geometry, that you see me a lot of these symbols behind me. And what Patrick did was he brought through a number of different symbols within the format, so that as a healer, again, with our left brains, remember those days when we tried to do the mudras and things like that? We all had a system, and it was great training for us, and this is great training for us. And he presented 15 to 20 symbols and ways that you can use Seichem Reiki for healing, clearing, and even bringing in clarity. And what I love about that was I started to see similarities between this work and the Akashic records, that you can actually put Seichem Reiki into people's records, into their scrolls, to get things moving and working. Because they're not just a physical healing. It's not just about moving the systems. They have a beautiful symbol connected to Mary. And they have a beautiful symbol connected. There's pyramids and there's circles. And there's also ones for activations. And there is another one for manifestation and abundance. And I am going to be sharing one that's very relevant with you today. And it'll be interesting when I show the symbol if you've seen it before or you think you've seen it before. Because remember, again, a lot of this is remembering. So the first one that I wanted to touch on was not to give you 15 symbols. I do have a weekend retreat that I run in Sedona, and that's where we do give all of the symbols and the protocols. But I wanted to touch on the groups where the symbols are. And there's 4 key areas within Sekhem. The first is the symbols connected to Earth. And this is very, very similar, if not exactly the same, as the Seichem Reiki that many, many of you have gone through those protocols and training, that beautiful training. When you work with the Earth aspects and the Earth symbols, you're working to help to bring things into growth, fruition, wisdom, and strength. So if you're a practitioner, one of the things that you might be doing is doing a mini reading or looking at what you need or your client needs. And it may be that they need grounding, they need earthing. They've been doing a lot of journey work or a lot of dream work. The next one to consider is fire. And that is the energy also known as Sakara, Sakara, which I also think is interesting because the Kara temple in Egypt, they've just started to reopen it now. They've been doing a lot of excavation work. And that's where I learned a lot of my Egyptian healing before I really even trained in Sekhem with my teacher Hakim. And we would walk across the sand, and he was a very wise Egyptian gentleman, almost like a prophet. And he would be shouting at everyone. And then he would look at me and go, "Do you remember that?" And I would go, "Oh, yes, yes." And he would draw symbols in the sand. And there were platforms where we would live people on. And he would say, "What do they need?" And I would say, "Oh, it's their heart. Oh, it's this, it's that." So I was given some of my healing medical intuitive training there. But I'm not too sure exactly if it's the same with Sakara Temple as in this Sakara fire energy, but I certainly make the connection. Working with the fire energy, you are able to transform blockages, clear past lives, purification. In those ways, help things evolve. I call it a spiritual fever, because the fire burns it out without burning it through. Okay. The next one that you might use is the water energy, Sophiel, Sophiel. And you would use that energy and symbol base to smooth and calm. Someone's got too much fire in their system. They need calming, clearing. It helps the emotional levels within the body. And I've also been able to call in the rain with it. So these aren't just for people and places. You can use them in your environment. And the fourth one is called air. And that is the energy also of the angels. So it's really interesting that we're able to bring Reiki, Sekhem, Egypt, Atlantis, and then we bring the angels in. So you can see it's a very vast modality. With the air, it's about help and assistance, embrace and lift. It's also very clearing, and it also works amazingly well with sound, song, and music. So if you're toning over someone, or you're using singing bowls, or you're bringing in musical projections, bringing in the air symbols can really help that move through that body or through that location. And what I like to do, like I said, there's between 15 and 20 symbols that you can use. Some of the symbols move together and they create a frequency together. That's why I say this like 15 to 20. So some of them work together. But when you're bringing them through, one size does not fit all necessarily. So sometimes you will pick and choose, or you will just take all of them and work through that person for whatever is the greater need. I've taught healing to so many beautiful students. It's been a great blessing teaching both here in Sedona, Glastonbury, and also in the temples of Egypt. And the one thing I will say is when you engage with the light recognizes the intuition within you, your initiation, though your spiritual passports in your fingertips, and they work with you for that greatest intention. So you can never get it wrong. Never get it wrong, because you're working for the greatest, highest intent. Two of the other aspects that I love to bring to the attention when you're working with Seichem Reiki is that you're also taught something called the dragon's breath, which I think we can all work with. And that simply is about using color, the breath work, and what it does is it lifts your energy into a certain frequency. And it starts from the root chakra and it goes up through the roof of your mouth. And you can feel it if you press your tongue on the back of your front teeth to that little ridge. And what that does is it engages through your chakra column to bring that Kundalini awareness, which the Egyptians always knew about and we knew about in Atlantis, bringing that awareness so that you do become a standing pillar of light, a healing light for souls to work through. Please remember, if you're using any of these techniques, open it and then close it, okay, as you would if you're working on anyone, because these are very powerful channels. What also can happen when you're taking a Seichem Reiki class is that you're introduced to the Great White Brotherhood and the initiations of Melchizedek. How I know that that's come about is that was basically the work that we did in the Great Pyramid. When we would go into the King's Chamber, I would call in the creator gods, and then I would see this circle. I call them the Elohim, would come in to join us. And that's what I believe came in to join Patrick when he was doing this work of bringing in the sparkling lights. And he was initiated into the Great White Lodge, and great possibilities that he was initiated into the Order of Melchizedek as well. And how we talk about the Order of Melchizedek is, yes, it's a very sacred mystery school, but they will give a symbol. And they will always give the symbol when you're not expecting it. My first journey to Egypt, what happened for me was we went through every temple in the pyramids. And I was exhausted after 2 weeks. I was totally green. It was my first sacred journey. My Akashic wisdom had opened up. And I was just running from fight, flight. And I was really praying for a little bit of a freeze that I could stop and gather myself. And the group went to do one of the trips, and I just said, I can't go. I lay down on my bed, and it was as if I was frozen. I just could not move. And it was at that point a vision of a symbol came to me. So when I do work in my Egypt classes, or I work in the King's Chamber, or sometimes in Abydos Temple as well, I will bring through that symbol, and I will give that into the hearts of those who are there and they feel inclined to ask for it. One of the times we were there with a group of 16, and someone had asked me for the initiation of Melchizedek, and I hadn't said anything. And everyone was sat, and I said, okay, we're ready to receive the blessing of the Order of Melchizedek. And basically, it's like getting a very powerful symbol or statement in your frequencies of light, initiation, and ascension. And the whole group stood up, and some of them weren't aware of it, but they said they'd had a dream of it. So you never can tell when that happens. So what I'd like you to do now, please, is just very gently thinking of a symbol that you could use. Okay? Just thinking of a symbol that you could use in this moment, that you've seen, recognized. You might even draw it, or keep it in your mind's eye, program it into your third eye. And then asking yourself, please, what is that symbol for? What is that symbol for? And just breathe it in. Imagine it's coming into your hands. It's working its way into your feet. Bringing in your own personal symbol. Beautiful. Now very gently coming back to me. On 3, on 2, and on 1. Back with me, eyes open. Okay. And just remembering that symbol. And it may be that you do a little search on the internet. You might be surprised of what it is or what it was. You might even know what it is, what it was. But I believe that we have such wisdom and knowledge within us. We're just starting to unlock it. So let's get to our third part, and let's start talking about using these energies and using these symbols. Like I said, I was probably one of the, not the slowest learning with symbols and protocols, but I always remember taking some workshops and being there with a group of priestesses, and we'd fall asleep. And we'd always be told off by our teacher in the nicest possible way. And she'd say, you girls, you just fall asleep. And we'd say, we don't know what it is. You know, we're feeling the wave. And then when we'd come around, it was like, oh, okay, I can use it in this way. So there's many, many ways of learning. So if you're not remembering all of the symbols, or you're learning certain things and you're not understanding the protocols, remember, take yourself back to divine love and light, and bringing through that consciousness and frequency can help a lot of people, including yourself. So using this powerful energy, I was trained like the 3 stages of Reiki. There's helping and healing for yourself, helping and healing for another, and this includes animals and nature and environment and properties and businesses. And then there's teaching this healing to others. So I went into stage 3, but I do believe that a lot of people are evolving out there where they're creating their own healing modalities. So if you want to do your own, this is mine and this is what works for me, don't be afraid to bring your divine wisdom through. Always thinking that this is a holistic approach for mind, body, spirit. I'm very, very careful about going into the medical world. And the reason is that I kind of just don't want the challenge. I've got other things to get on with in my life and work with in my life. And therefore, what I will say about any of the healing work that I do is that it helps create a calming frequency so that you can make good choices and attract the healing, clearing, and clarity to you. So if you're going for any type of healing now, know that you're receiving these beautiful, beautiful gifts, and it's clearing on all these physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual levels, but always in your records, bringing it in that that healing can carry on. So with the healing that I teach, you may go down into the grocery store and you're drawn to all these different kinds of colors of fruits and vegetables, or you're drawn to this certain vitamin, or you're drawn to this certain drink or type of water, even because your body is learning to navigate the health and healing itself. So that's why I like it when we can have these healings, but then it carries on working with us, or it carries on working for the clients as well. And really, at the moment, we're working in a little bit of a current healing crisis. We have this coronavirus has reared its head, and it's been prophesized for many, many times. And again, what we have to remember is we've been training for this for lifetimes, because it's about lifting our vibration. A lot of it's coming with chest and issues that create a great strain and fear base sometimes on the heart. We're going through fevers, we're burning it off. Once you start applying any of your Seichem Reiki tools to this, what's actually helping is you're using the elements to move things through. You're moving silver through, which is an element of the earth. A lot of people are spraying the colloidal silver into their frequency. They're using that as kind of their cleaning force. We've been taking a lot of vitamin C, which is connected sometimes to the sun. So we're getting this sunshine now, especially here in Sedona, which I feel is lifting our energy and life forces. The water, we're being asked to really hydrate, and not just water, putting love and light and vibration into our water, our alkaline waters, and getting some fresh air, really going out, not being in confined spaces. And in that way, thinking of this, what I call help and hope for healing, or this call to action. It's also bringing up a lot of past life things. Using this as a great way to reflect on how far you've come in your consciousness, how far you've come as a healer, and the tools that you already have to clear this through. And so what I did was, when I went through my Reiki manuals, I found a virus eliminator symbol, and it's called Motor Xanon. And it clears the viruses and releases the energy. But remember what I just said. It can release the viruses, it can release the energy, but we still got to clear it through. So you may still have to go through sleeping and resting and doing what other healing techniques that you know or that you can go to. But this is the symbol. And if you're new to symbols, I have a very simple approach to it. In the fact that I draw my symbol like this, and I draw each symbol on a large piece of paper, and I like to use the color green, simply because I feel that it really, even when I'm looking at it and then I'm not looking at it, i.e. if I turn the board this way and you kind of flash your eyes a little bit, you can sometimes see the symbol. Okay, so we're going to do this symbol, and we're going to teach it to come into our frequencies so that we can use it ourselves and in our environments. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw it with you. And the first line that I do, and I take, particularly I'm left-handed, it doesn't matter whether you do your left or your right. You can place it into your hand, on your sheet of paper, onto your heart. You can even place it into your frequency, that when you're ready to receive it, it comes through. Please know, with any type of Reiki, symbolic energy, it will sit within you till you're ready to receive it. I had many people that were getting their downloads 3 weeks after they've done initiations. It has to work with your system in a holistic way. So movement 1, movement 2, movement 3, movement 4. And then I bring it in, place it in my heart. And then so that I remember, I do what I call the 3 methods to bring it in. And I say the word motor 3 times. So it's motor, 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 Zanon. And then as I place it down, you're breathing it in. And then if you close your eyes, you can still see that green swirl. Movement 1, 2, 3, 4. And just breathing that in very gently. And then just finally, what we're also going to do is do a call to action of our Egyptian energies. And this is a tool called a Seichem that I brought back from the healers in Abydos. And it has like our goddess's head. It has the Hathor, sometimes the symbol of Isis. Mine is double-faced. And with the coins, what these do is this works the energy in. So it's like a call to action. And you'll often see on the walls of Egypt, they're holding these as tools on the wall, and the goddess is taking that energy in. So for me, I programmed this as a tool to work with my Seichem Reiki. So it wasn't just that I was trying to remember all of the symbols, but it was a case of where I needed to, I was clearing, but I was taking that symbol and I was placing it in a sacred tool. And I'll use this for clearings and healings and connections into temple. A little bit like we've used it in wands, but we're clearing and sealing. And you'll probably see yourself doing this kind of technique if you go into any past lives. As I'm doing it, I'm also getting a flash of another past life connected to the Druids. And I'm doing this with a tree almost. So you might have seen these kind of things because it's dropping in all these Akashic records connected with these modalities of healing. So it makes me think about the class that we did with the trees and the elementals. Even though we're currently in Atlantis with Egypt and Seichem Reiki, all of these modalities kind of build themselves together. And there's no doubt about it. We're coming up on a Mercury retrograde and a full moon, and it will be on March the 9th, 2020. So if you're watching this live with me now, or you're watching it on the playback on Monday, this is a pivotal time, my darlings. From the 222 of the 2nd of February, the 22nd of February, we've had these portals and doorways and gateways open. Make no mistake, we are in the age of Aquarius now. And you're simply remembering everything back that we all promised that we would show up for and be with. So, if you want to know more about this precious work, this beautiful Sekhem training, I am doing retreats here in Sedona. We've got one in June that I think we've sold out 2020, but there's more dates in October 2020 as well. And I'll probably offer this once or twice a year. And if you're coming on any of my sacred journeys with me, we will be looking at this in Egypt, just not as it's in depth. as we would do on the retreat. So if you want to know more, please reach out and connect with me. I'd love to share. And if I can help with any initiations or attunements or support with your work, I would be delighted to do so. So thank you so much for joining me. It's always an honor and a privilege. Please reach out to me if I can be of any help and assistance to you. Have a blessed, amazing rest of your day, and namaste.